Imagine you have an important client meeting today, so you need everything to run smoothly. You need to keep your clients engaged and ensure you leave a lasting positive impression. To assist with this, you planned ahead of time, adding a catering request to your meeting to add that personal touch. And to ensure everything runs smoothly, you've added an equipment request, so you have everything you need to effectively present to your client. As the meeting progresses, your clients are fully engaged, but the energy levels start to dip and they start to lose focus. Luckily, the catering arrives precisely for when you planned it. Refreshments from local businesses that you can serve to your client. Everyone takes a break, enjoys the food, and feels re-energized. Now with the atmosphere lifting, the technology working, the conversations can flow, and the presentation is a smash. Using RICOH Spaces to pull all of this together, you delivered a successful meeting and created an environment where everybody felt valued and motivated. And this is just one example of how services in RICOH Spaces can make that difference to your meetings. In this video, I'll take you through all of the updates that we have made, including how organizations can use catering and equipment requests directly in RICOH Spaces to elevate their meetings. I'll go through the full user experience of raising a request with plenty of demonstrations so you can see exactly how it's done. And for administrators, we've made a lot of updates to the admin section to give you more functionality and capability when it comes to managing requests in your locations. So stay tuned and join me as we go through services in RICOH Spaces. So as a user of RICOH Spaces, how would we configure this? How can we set up our meetings so that we make sure that we include a service request? If I go into a meeting room here, and this is scheduled for a few days ahead, I can open it up. Let's schedule a meeting that covers over lunchtime. So 11 o'clock until, let's say, 3 o'clock. Got my times there. I'll hit that, and that will open up our events box. So let's add in our customer meeting. Our date and our times are already configured into this. Because we've added our room in here, we can see that we've got this bell icon which will say add catering or request equipment. So if I go into add catering here, we've got several things that we can add in. So let's add in some ramen noodles, let's add in a couple burgers, and let's add in a few bottles of water to make sure that everybody is catered for. We'll hit next. We get a summary here of all of our items and how much it's going to cost. We've set our delivery time for 1 o'clock, but I could change that to 12:30 if I wanted to, so that the food comes exactly when I want it. And then we can add a comment. So I've added in there, please bring plates and cutlery, and I will agree to say that all dietary requirements have been confirmed. Next, let's add in an equipment request. So you can see we've got a couple of things here. Podcast kit. Maybe I'm going to be having a few customers in and recording a podcast with them. So let's add that in. And I know there's going to be a couple, so I'll add 2. We'll hit next. We can add a comment to this again. So I've got my comment. I've just put, please make sure there are 2 mics and headphones. I'll confirm that. And then we have our catering request. We've got our equipment request. So with all of that, I'll create the event. Our event is created. The time has now been booked out for us. And I'll close that. And it really is as simple as that. Now that request isn't going to be approved automatically. It will go into an approval process, which I'll show you shortly, which can be done by the facilities admin. So as a user of RICOH Spaces, that's a really quick and easy demonstration for adding services into your meeting events. Now let's explore some of the improvements that we have made for administrators. We've made a lot of updates to services, but before we get into it, let me show you how to access that section. So I'll go into our menu on the left here with organization settings. I'll click on that icon. This works on a location by location basis, allowing you to customize the settings per location. I'll find our Birmingham office here, Run Runner Works, and then we can see in the left-hand menu there is an item called Services. Now previously, if I show you here, this used to be called Item Catalog. When clicking into the Item Catalog, it just showed you catering and equipment items that you could request. If we click into the services section, we have a totally new interface that gives us catering, equipment, and user access. I'll go through those shortly. Now it's important to note that global and location admin will not have access to this area. Services is strictly managed by facilities admin. In this section, we can see all of the items that we have available for our catering menu, including the food that I added into our request earlier. We can see the price of the items, the order limit for those items, and the status, whether it says active or inactive. And then we also have this tab called Spaces, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. To add a new item into this menu, we click on the button in the top right hand corner, and then we fill out these text fields. Let's add in our new food item. Let's add in fish and chips, British classic. We can add in a price, let's say it's $9.99, and let's set an order limit of 6. I've filled out a brief description, and then I can add in an image, so I have got one prepared here. And then we can make the service active by hitting this toggle here. By making it active, you are essentially making it an orderable item on the catering menu. And we can see at the bottom here, it says currently there are no rooms assigned to this item. What this means is when you add an item into the catering or equipment menu, because the process is the same for both, you need to make sure that you allocate them to the rooms that you can order them for. So if we go into the available spaces section, we can add rooms that this service is allocated for. So let's choose Spaghetti Junction. That's our boardroom in this office, and we'll hit confirm. So we can see Spaghetti Junction, room ground. And what that means is that for any meetings that are now scheduled to the Spaghetti Junction room, can add the catering for the fish and chips. And that is what this column here for spaces refers to when we can see 1 space, 2 space. That's how many spaces that service is allocated to in the office. So we can see our new fish and chips, it's allocated to 1 space, price is $9.99 with an order limit of 6 and the status set to active. If we go into the equipment menu, it's exactly the same process for adding an item, and we can also edit items that already exist. For example, I can take this podcast kit and I can edit it in our office. So it's got the same fields of text that we saw when we were adding a new item in catering, but I could change anything about it. For example, I could make it inactive, I could change the order limit, or I could change the available spaces, and I can add a new space. Let's say custard factory, confirm that, and I'll hit save. And now that kit is available in 2 spaces, and we can see our 360 camera is available in 3 spaces. Now, as part of the updates that we have made into this section, we have created some new roles in this user access tab, which is available here. When uploading new users into this section and allocating permissions, there is a couple ways that you can do it. You can add individuals, groups, or you can even add external contacts, or if you want to upload multiple people at once, then you can use a CSV file. And when you click upload CSV, it will actually give you a template that you can download so you can fill it in correctly before uploading it into the system. And once they're uploaded, you can choose the level of administrative permissions that this person has. So an administrator has access to change items on the menu. They can add new ones, they can edit existing ones, they have visibility of the jobs board, and they can progress jobs into the different sections. I'll talk about that in a moment. The only thing a catering admin can't do is change the approval process. A catering coordinator is similar to an administrator in the sense that they can use the jobs board, they can move jobs between columns, and they can view the requests that have been made. Unlike administrators though, they cannot edit or add new menu items. A catering viewer has the ability to see the request and can leave comments, but they can't do anything else. And then none removes all administrative permissions from that user, but you can always change it. So it's a better way of temporarily taking away permissions rather than deleting that user and then having to manually add them back in. Once a role is assigned, users with permissions will have access to the job board, but their view will be restricted based on their role. So for example, a viewer can see the contents of a request, whereas a coordinator can move the status of that request. You'll see as well that some people's permissions are grayed out and they can't be changed. These people are facilities administrators, and they are a higher level than catering admin, and they're the people who actually manage all of the catering sections, so their permissions can't be changed by anyone else. And each person can have a tag next to their name, and that will indicate if they are facilities admin or if they're an external contact. Now, that service request we raised earlier has gone through into the system. As a facilities admin member, I can go into the jobs section, and under the request list, we will find this service request. So here we can see the request ID, when it's due by, who it's been requested by, and then we can see the status that it's in as well. This section has received a bit of an update with a new interface. If I show you here, this is the older version of the request list. Now we have a more seamless interface with a search function that allows you to easily search through and organize the requests that come through into this list. From this section, I can see new requests, I can see any that have been processed, and I can see previous archived requests. So if I go back into the requested section, I can now open this request up. And this brings up a new view where I can see all of the information about this request. I can see that there's catering and equipment that have both been requested. And as facilities, I can choose to approve or reject this request. Now, before I approve this request and move it into the jobs board, I need to talk to you about a new feature that we've brought into services: dual approval. When it comes to any service request that's made in RICOH spaces, facilities admin will always be the first layer of approval. But when it comes to the dual approval process, it will first be checked and approved by facilities admin, and then it can move on to a different role such as catering admin. This feature pushes requests through 2 layers of approval instead of just being approved by facilities admin. So let me explain how this works. Firstly, by going back into the services section that we were in earlier, we can go into our catering menu and we can click on settings. Now again, this is something that can only be configured by facilities admin. We can see the approval processes that we have, and either single approval where it's done by facilities admin, or dual approval where it's first approved by facilities admin, then it can progress onto another administrator via the jobs board. So the initial workflow is the same. It will still go to facilities in the requests list. However, when it goes to the jobs board, instead of just being to do, in progress and completed, there will also be a new column for new requests. So if I go back into the request that I had earlier, I will hit approve. And now this will go into the jobs board in this new column. Now you see this has split because the equipment part of the request has gone into the to-do section, and the catering part has gone into the new, because the catering is what's got dual approval against it, not the equipment. The 2 roles that can currently review requests in the new section of the jobs board are catering admin and facilities admin. And this is a great example of where external users can be brought into the services section to be able to review and approve requests. Let's say for one of your locations, you work with a local vendor to provide catering. You can add members of that organization into your instance of RICOH spaces specifically to look at services. When they're added, they'll receive an email which will give them a magic link to be able to sign into RICOH spaces. However, they'll have a restricted view of the platform, and if they want to, they can also undergo a short onboarding process so that they can understand how it works. Now, they won't have access to anything except the jobs that they have been assigned to. So when they go into spaces, they can go into the organization settings, they'll find the one location that's available for them, and then they can go into the services section, and they'll only be able to see the request relevant for them. With the permissions granted by catering admin, this vendor will be able to go into this request and view the items on the order. They won't be able to see any other information to do with this meeting. They won't be able to see who has been invited. They'll only be able to see the request and what's on that order. Then if they think they can fulfill that order by the time it's requested for, they can accept it. So if we accept that job, we can see it's now been moved into the to-do section, and we'll find it in this column. So just to recap there, dual approval is a new process that will push requests through 2 layers of approval. The first layer will always be facilities admin. The second layer of approval can be facilities admin or catering admin, and catering admin can be assigned to internal or external users. And external users will not have visibility of anything else but the request. Now, like the request list, the job board has also undergone a update for the interface. So if I show you what it looks like here, it's very square, very blocky. We've updated it to make things a lot sleeker and more seamless. Again, with different filters and a search bar, so it's really easy to organize these requests. Now, with the request in the to-do section, this is where the other levels of administrators can come in. So as a catering coordinator, for example, I can view this catering request and I could progress it into the in progress section. And as a catering viewer, I'll be able to click into this request and just see the items that have been requested. Once these requests have been fulfilled, they can be moved into the completed column. And then to keep things nice and tidy, we can use this menu here with the 3 dots and clear the completed jobs. Once it's all done, we'll hit confirm, and that then tidies up our jobs board so it's not just full of previously completed requests. Now, we don't just let the data of all of these requests go to waste. We do capture it all and provide it in the form of an insights report. This report will show you different information such as total services approved, total requests by day of the week so you know which day is most popular. You can see who is requesting the most services, which space has the most requests against it, and more. Now that is a lot to take in, but our new services interface is going to give organizations a lot more control when it comes to deciding the different services that they can provide for their locations. The dual approval process adds that extra layer of approval, ensuring that requests abide by company policy and are guaranteed to be delivered on time. User access and the new roles that we've created delegates responsibility while maintaining privacy and complying with GDPR. And the refreshed jobs area provides much more information to administrators, making it easier than ever to review, approve, and manage requests. We hope these updates continue to improve the user experience with RICOH Spaces. And of course, you can find some written materials on the RICOH Spaces Help Center and more videos like this one on the RICOH Spaces YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.